Hello there! Title is pretty self-explanatory, one tip for every single synergy in the game, and more if I'm in the mood for more. So let's just go in the wiki, in the synergies, and then I will review every single one of them and give you one tip to make your gameplay better when you are playing them. And we'll start with normal because it's the first synergy. So normal gives you a shield, and the shield becomes bigger if you are packed, and the more units are grouped, the bigger the shield. So because this synergy purely gives you more HP to play with, you should probably always play resistances alongside this shield, because the more HP you have, the more HP the resistances actually protect. So the two statistics actually synergize perfectly. So a lot of MR, a lot of armor, and if you need other items, then maybe consider playing the AoE items, like the Lucky Egg, the Gracidia, because you are packing your team anyway. The positioning thing doesn't hinders you in the specific situation of the normal comp. So that would be my two advices. And also, if you want to play normal, just ask Crab because he's the best player of this comp probably. Grass, the best player of this comp would probably be me. And it's the same thing. You get a lot of regen. So regen means HP, which means you need resistances. Do not forget to pick up your berries, of course, because it's really easy to just forget to click the stupid tree that is pretty stealthy on the bottom left of your screen, and then you just waste a lot of your power. You need a lot of offensive components, just because you are purely defensive, and the units themselves lack damage a lot. So I would advise to go for Lithium, because Lithium will give AD to your whole team compositions. Fire generates more AD and a chance to burn with every attack, so the more you attack, the better for the composition, which means this composition actually scales a lot better with attack speed. So I would advise you to just play some defensive components on your front line that isn't very solid by itself, but also a lot of attack speed on your carries. Like your range carries should always wear X-ray specs, and probably Gracidias too, to just boost your attack speed in AoE. That would be my advice. Water. Water actually acts like resistances. Like the dodge technically cancels auto attacks, so this synergizes with HP. So the stat that you should be building on your front line would be HP. Also, just as with Grass, it's a pure defensive synergy, so it may lack damage. Consider playing Vaporeon, and the more aquatic unit you can get, the better probably. Also, what's specific about water is that look at this sheer number of additional picks. It's probably one of the synergy with the more additional picks in the game. Look at these epics, there are 6 of them. So your water games depend a lot on the additionals that are available. So you should always pay attention to them before you decide to go for water or not. Then electric. Electric is a weird one, purely offensive. But with this design, actually it synergizes both with attack speed, because it will proc the triple attack a lot more often, but also with AD, because the triple attack will triple the bonus AD, and it also synergizes with every single on-hit effect in the game. So I would advise you to build a lot of offensive items onto your electric types, and to pretty much ignore the tankiness. You are just bursting. If you go for pure electric, of course. Fighting, it's just resistances, so I would advise you to play HP. Probably the King's Rock is the best item for a fighting unit. And also look at this, it's only 6 units, and among Epic and Ultras you have 7 of them. And 6 actually in the common pool. Which means that you can every single game get these 6 fighting units. And most of the time, if you play for fighting, you have 1 unique, 1 legendary, and the 3 ultras, which leaves the room for only one of these 3 units, which I would probably have it be Jangmo-O or Bounce Suite, and not really Oshawott. So always, you start with the weaker units, and if you want to keep fighting, then you replace them while the game goes on. You replace them with the better units that are here. You should always have these three. These three are all super strong. Psychic gives you a ton of damage, and you should not need more AP besides already the AP bonus from Psychic, so consider playing Mana Generation instead. The likes of Mana Flow Band would probably be the best, I think. Dark actually has a ton of crit chance, like 80 crit chance here, which means that every item that gives you 25% crit chance, like the spell crit, like the mana crit, actually puts you above the threshold of 100%, which means that you can actually have one item per unit and have them all be above 100% and benefit a lot more than any other unit in the game from their items. So you should take a lot of crits. The more black glasses you can get, the better. Build these items that give you 25% attack speed and spread them among your team. And then you will have every single unit be a menace, which will be terrible to deal with for your opponents. Also pay attention to the number of additionals there. The design of your dark games will depend a lot of which one is available or not, even though you can play dark even without many of them. Consider playing ghosts beside your dark units, because people will try to build armor, and so you have to counter them with your ghost synergy. On the current patch, because ghost is probably being reworked. Steel gives you a ton of AD. You should probably go for Steel 4 as soon as possible. Steel 6 is probably overrated. And then because this doubles your base AD, you should probably play for attack speed to go besides the AD. Nothing complicated, right? A lot of them are also artificial, so you could play this besides artificial. Would make a lot of sense. Ground needs to survive for a while to get the statistics, and if it survives long enough, then the units become really strong. So you need to give them survivability and something that synergizes with resistances. So I would probably go for a mixture of shield and regen. The likes of defensive ribbon and leftovers, just because your composition is basically a front line and a big wide front line, so the leftovers are super efficient. And probably, let's say, a King's Rock and a unit that you really want to survive. Poison is a side synergy, one of the better side synergy in the game. Poison 3 is already strong enough, but you can also play Poison 5. Poison 5 does really great. Poison 7 is probably way too much. A good side synergy to play alongside Grass, for example, or Ground. But I wouldn't go for Vertical Poison. What synergizes with Poison? Well, I would say pretty much everything. Like, Poison as a synergy doesn't specifically benefit from one item more than another, but maybe attack speed, just because the more attacks you do, the more poison you proc. I'd say attack speed. Dragons you should always play for rolls, because the more they evolve, the more stats they gain. So yeah, maybe stay at level 7 for a while to get these units to evolve. I would always play for level 7, I think. Level 7 you can actually get these 3 units and these 3 units, if you really are lucky. And then, as for the statistic, let's look at what we have with Dragon. Double the synergies, this doesn't really matter a lot for this video. You get a lot of HP, and you also get attack speed and ability power, so maybe some AD and resistances to go with these 2 statistics. I'd say the ability power will always synergize with the fact that you have a lot of aquatic units that generate mana. Field. I hate field. I always hated field. I never have any taste for this composition in particular. But when other field units die, you get some healing and get some attack speed. So if you get healing and attack speed, you know what it means. It means that you need more resistances and more AD. By now you should be used to it. Also, a lot of field units play with dashes, and the dashing abilities actually benefit a lot from mana fiags, like look at Ponyta for example. And just mana Fieg with AP to just one-shot backlines. It would be the case also with the likes of Suicune, for example. Really just one-shot backlines. What am I doing even? Okay, Monster. Monster is actually a specific counter to shields. Also it gains attack, ability, power and max HP, so you need, guess what? Attack speed and resistances, if anything. So yeah, pretty straightforward. If you see a lot of shields, you should go for Monster. You do not even need to go for Monster 6, Monster 4 is already strong. Humans! Side synergy gives you regen. So just because the regen depends on the damage, you should probably play this in compositions that already have a lot of damage. It does well in like fire. It also does well in psychic if you can get it. And then more damage for more regen, and besides regen, you can also buy resistances. No shield, because if you get shield and your units do not lose their HP, they actually do not benefit from the regen. Aquatic. Drains PP from the target with every single attack. Benefits a lot from ability power, because you will be able to launch a lot of ability. And besides ability power, you should also take attack speed to just proc more PP stealing. To be played besides dragons or water. Bugs. I wouldn't advise to play bugs. I do not think the synergy is really good. But if you play bugs, you should actually try to swarm your opponents and go for level 8 as soon as possible, just to have... With level 8 you have 13 units on your board. If you have them evolved, this can be just too much for your opponent to handle. Also pay attention to the sheer number of additional picks. You should only pay bugs when the additionals are actually available, but because there is a lot of game, most of the time they should be available, right? So look out for the Ninkadas, look out for the Combis, look out for the Lava Stars. I think Yanma is probably one of the better ones also. Okay, I think my cat wants to go out, so let me take a moment. Yeah, you know it's raining, you still want to leave? Okay. Then just leave. Yeah, pay attention to the additionals and go for level 8 would be my advice. This doesn't synergize particularly well with any items better than the others, so you can build pretty much anything. Just remember that your clone will not benefit from the stats. What am I doing with the statistics? So we were with bugs. Let's go with flying. Flying is a very, very particular synergy with a lot of commands. So it's the definition of the hyper roll synergy. You just stay level 5 as long as possible, roll for as many of these units as you can, and then you just try and scale. Maybe nowadays you can go for level 6 instead and roll for these units. Maybe, you know, because it will activate max airstream a lot earlier. But basically, your units fly away, get protected, paralyzed. This doesn't particularly synergize this with anything, but I would probably go advise you against playing the AoE items, just because your unit will be separated every single time they fly away. The likes of, you know, what is it called? Leftovers, for example, or Delta Orbs actually synergy is super bad with flying. Also, the flying units actually already do the how is it called? Smoke bomb effect, so you should not build smoke bombs. Besides that, maybe play for Articuno and try and be the toxic freezer machine. I do not think I have a lot of advice to give for this composition. I think it's not that great. Anyway, Floral always played besides grass and nothing else. I would advise to go for Floral 6 early on, and then in the late game, when you have better units than your Floral ones, you should just go for Floral 5 or even Floral 4 and replace your weaker units with better units. Do not play specifically for florals with your items. Just consider it to be a neat side synergy. And if you can afford to have it, then you should always have it because it's that strong. Rock. Rock gives you a ton of armor and reduced critical strikes, so it's strong in a meta where Dark is omnipresent, and besides synergies that give you HP, but because you can't really play it with normal, actually, Rock is in a tough spot right now. So maybe if you can afford Rock 2 or Rock 4, it's never bad. Do not play specifically for Rock, and if you play for Rock, go with Shield to benefit from the armor a lot. And if there are a lot of AP composition, yeah, your Rock actually just doesn't do anything. And because right now AP comps are super strong, I would advise against playing Rock, and that would be my tip. Ghost should never be played vertically. I think the best synergy to be played with besides Ghost is probably Dark. Gives you a ton of true damage on this specific patch. Next patch it will change, probably. So it's not the best time to give you advice for Ghost. Just consider it to be a side synergy that's played alongside Dark for the time being. To be fair, there's also a spot for Ghosts in grass composition, but these units actually are underwhelming, I believe. So I would probably advise against it. And then fairies. So in my last stream I said that my advice for fairies would be to go duck yourself and do not play fairies because I hate the trait, I think it's toxic. So I will not explain further why I think the trait needs a rework. I've been explaining it in a lot of videos, but if I have to give you a tip, maybe play for the razor claws to increase your chance of critical strike, because it will proc a lot more fairy splashes. Also, the tankier your units, the more fairy splash they can actually provide. So give them HP, give them defensive stats, and hope that it's enough to trouble you, to be a trouble to your opponent. Ice. Ice has been nerfed. Ice is still strong when AP is strong, but it's technically a side synergy. I do not believe in vertical ice, but when you can have a lot of ice units besides your main composition, then they can be really strong. Like with field, with aquatic, and when these two synergies are meta, then ice being played without them is probably super strong. Note that it's every single one more unit that you add into your composition gets you a bonus, so you could always play for ice stones, because any ice stone will always be useful. Fossils should dispatch be played alongside dragons. Specifically with Dracovish, I think it's the best unit that benefits from fossils, because you know with Dracovish and Eternatus, it's already Dragon 2 Fossil 3, and then if you get the baby dragon, how is it called? Let's go just watch the babies hatch. Where are you? Yeah, here. If you get the Aksu, then Aksu is actually a dragon that will double the stone that you give it. So if you give Aksu a fossil stone, it's Dragon 3, Fossil 5, with only 3 units, which is actually super strong. You only need one fossil additional besides them to have a super strong comp available to you. And because Eternatus is the only legendary fossil, if you take a fossil portal to turn 20, you are assured to be able to play dragon fossils. So this is the composition I would go for with fossils. And if you do not get the Dracovish, then it's probably better to try and go for something else. Also only to be played when the additionals are available, you know, because they are only additionals in this composition. Sound is really Chingling soundtrack. If you do not get the chime show, you are screwed. The composition is unplayable. Should always go for Sylveon, Flabébé, and chime show. If you can get the 3 of them, it's probably a terrible game you will be going for. Pay attention to the additionals, because they will make it a lot easier to reach Sound 6 early on. And play for mana, of course. Like you need the Stardust for Chingling, and you also need the Manafi Egg for Flabébé. These are two items that are mandatory in this composition. If you do not have them, you can't play at all. And the Fairy Stone for Sylveon, of course. Artificial was just reworked. Depends a lot of the items that are given by the synergy. So if you get bad artificial items, you should just not play artificial. Yeah, right now if you get bad artificial items, do not play artificial. If you get good artificial items, play artificial. And if you want to know which one is strong and which one isn't, you should look at my patch review because I think I went through all of them. Babies! I would advise against playing Baby 5, you should always play Baby 3. And watch out for other chain losers, because if you face chain losers that lose better than you, they will ruin your whole game. Which is why I would always play Baby 3, because if you play Baby 5 in the current meta, you will actually be stronger than the chain losers and you won't be able to get your eggs, which actually feels awful. 1 to 2 eggs is probably already enough, and then once you get your hatchlings, then you just build your composition around them. If you get fire hatchlings, you go for fire. If you get dark hatchlings, you go for dark. Pretty straightforward, right? Light can be played alongside pretty much anything. It's super strong right now. Most of the time it's played besides Hisui and Typhlosion, just because you have a lot of fire dark units, you know, at least 3 of them, 4 of them. But it can also be built around electric, like when both Chinchu and Helioptile are available, you can go for a super strong electric-like composition. But you should not do this if these 2 units aren't both available. You really need the 2 of them. Okay. And then, once you get to turn 20, you should try and get Z-Chrome. Then you put Z-Chrome onto the light spot, you give it spell crit, and it just blasts the enemy composition away. And the AD stuff should go for Helioptile. Yeah, that would be my advice for light electric. And light fire is pretty straightforward. And I think that sums it up. That's at least one tip for every single synergy in the game. So I hope you enjoy this kind of content. I hope it's useful to every single one of you. And I'll see you later